Thanks for listening to the Stupendous Marriage Podcast today. My name is Stu Gray.
Hey, I'm Lisa Gray.
Our email is from Rebecca today. I found your site.
I wanted to send you a note about how much your post about being a student of your spouse resonated with me. More than once, I've asked my husband how he ever learned to do that, most particularly in bed, and he replied that he had the best teacher, me. We both came into this marriage as virgins, and all we know, we've learned from each other. Yes, there are times when we both let the other just explore ourselves, but then there are times when I have to tell him or he tells me that, hey, when you do whatever, fill in the blank, I really need you to be more fill in the blank. We've only been married 6 months, but every day I start fresh and wonder what I can learn from my husband, Rebecca. I think that's cool.
That is very cool. Well, it's neat. When you're new in a marriage, you don't have as much baggage in the marriage, you know what I mean? Because that just happens naturally. And so to be able to start your marriage off as virgins and know that you truly are each other's only mate, physical, you know what I mean, is very cool. It's really inspiring.
I think that's that's a huge blessing.
Yeah.
It's a huge blessing because you don't have all the mental anguish and all the thoughts of other things and comparisons and, hey, they did this, or hey, they're not doing this because I like this and I know that I like this. Well, if you don't know any of that stuff,
you don't know any better.
Right.
Yeah.
You start from the bottom floor and you can build your high rise however you want.
Well, I will say that I have talked to some people who did marry as virgins, and they still had a little bit of an issue with the communication part because it is, depending, again, it goes back to how you're raised and what you're taught to think about sex and intimacy in marriage.
And you bring that all with you.
And so even if you have been, pure and until when you're married, that's great. But being able to discuss it is also really inspiring for me. I thought that was great that they have that freedom. That's really what it is. It's freedom to be able to express yourself with your partner and not be concerned about being judged or anything else, that it can just be received.
Yeah, I guess that's really important, to feel safe enough, to feel trusted enough, and to be trustworthy enough to be able to have the freedom to do that, to have those conversations. I mean, I guess that's a good thing to talk about. How do you get to the freedom part? How do you, not come across as I need this and I need that, being able to be free and not worried about what you're thinking?
Well, it's funny. We've actually figured out something with our son that really could be applied to marriage in this way. Sometimes our son will come home and he will just be really, really difficult. When he started school, that was the case. He came home and he felt like he had to perform so much at school that he would come home and just really not want to perform, not want to be obedient, not want to listen well. And after a couple of days of it being really difficult, we finally figured out that it's because he felt safe. He felt like he could come home and he could sit there and just completely be just raw with us and didn't have to think about his manners as much or respectfulness or that kind of stuff because he was having to do that so much at school. Well, think about that in your marriage. I mean, if you're in a marriage with somebody where they're feeling safe enough to be raw with you, not that they necessarily should do that all the time.
And not that they should be rude and disrespectful either, you know what I mean?
But just real.
Right.
I mean, just saying, this is what I feel, or, you did this and it really hurt my feelings. That can be looked at in a different way. It can be looked at as, wow, my husband really trusts me and feels safe with me to be able to put it on the line and go, honey, you really hurt my feelings here, instead of just bottling it up and not feeling like he can say anything.
I think that's hard to do, to get to that point where, I don't know, I have a performance mentality. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I like people to like me, and you're included in that. So to say something that could be construed as hurtful or not manipulative, but something that I want, that I know that you don't necessarily, I'm in the mood and you're not. And I've had that argument with myself. Well, I know because I've got XYZ and I've seen how she's acted today, and I'm not going to lay it out there because I know what the response is going to be.
Assumption.
Yeah, I know. And I guess that's also another problem. The assuming part, I should trust you enough to be able to lay it out there and not get up in my head and just see what happens. Because I do trust you enough. Why am I up in my head so much?
Well, and that same thing back, if I do say no, I'm not in the mood, then that means that I feel safe enough to be able to say that back to you and not,
Right.
I'm not feeling pressured. You
And
know what I
that's the,
mean?
that's the
I don't know
other-
if any of this makes sense, but it makes sense to me. So
Well, that's the other part of it too. For you, the freedom to be able to say no.
Yeah.
And remember, hey, I'm still going to be married tomorrow.
yeah, I still love you. I still want to be with you.
Right.
I just may not be able to have that to give today.
Right. And yeah.
Probably should stop right there. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for the email. We really appreciate it, and we're excited to hear about you guys and your marriage, and just stay in touch with us.
The best way to get a hold of us right now, at Stu Gray on Twitter. Send us a message. If you've got a question, we'd love to hear from you. Talk to you soon.